So far, so good. Thank you guys for waking up so early in the morning to make it out to this panel. I know it was hard for me. Definitely trying not to get ill in front of all of you. But let's go ahead and get started. So I assume there's some game music fans in the room. Yeah? All right, good. Good to hear. So we're going to talk about, if you read the summary of the panel, about using game music throughout your daily routine in a way that some people might listen to the radio or listen to their favorite pop songs as game music fans. I'm sure we all listen to a lot of game music, and for me, almost exclusively, much to the disappointment of my wife and family, I listen to a lot of game music, whether it's in the car or in the house. And so, I'd always get questions, what's some good game music to listen to during the holidays, or what's your favorite playlist for sleeping, game music tracks to sleep. And if you go to YouTube, there's 2-hour playlists that compile all this stuff for you. But let's go ahead and jump in. So a little bit about myself. I've been a video game and a game music enthusiast since childhood, starting with the Atari in the 80s, and we got a Nintendo, and I remember playing the original Super Mario Brothers and not being able to jump over the pits, and giving the controller to my brother, who was 6 years older than me, and asking him to jump over the pits for me, and then blaming him if he made a mistake that he did it on purpose because he wanted to make me mad. So that's my earliest gaming memory. I've been writing and covering game music. That was how I got my start in the game industry from 2006 to 2013. I'd co-founded a website called Original Sound Version that maybe some of you people have heard of or read. It's still around. It's originalsoundversion.com. And then I also wrote as Destructoid's music editor. And I'll talk a little bit about how I was able to kind of spread this game music for daily living concept through those channels. And then most recently, in 2013, I launched a music label called Scarlet Moon. It's basically a record label that releases soundtracks and arrange albums specifically pertaining to this topic of game music for daily living. It offers PR services for composers, and it's also an artist group. All right. So why explore this topic? This picture here is actually my game music collection. That's what about 1,000 soundtracks looks like in a cabinet. It's alphabetized. So I really love this stuff, and I hope all of you do too, and that's why you're here. So it's kind of easy to be able to pick from all of this music pieces that are going to fit for the various activities throughout the day that we're going to explore. And it looks like Square Enix has got in on the game music as a lifestyle thing as well. They put out this series, I believe, 2 years ago at Tokyo Game Show. And you can see here they have albums that you can listen to while you drive, music to relax to, music to perk you up, and I guess it's kind of odd, but music to cry to, I guess. We'll talk a little bit about that, because sometimes you're feeling down and maybe you want some music to accent that, and so there's a place for it. So what ground are we going to cover? We're going to talk about game music for sleep. We're going to talk about game music for relaxation, exercise, holidays, more. And just because it would be kind of the easy way out to pull from arrangement albums, because some arrangement albums are created specifically for these activities. I'm pulling samples from the original soundtracks until the end. You'll see. So let's talk about game music for sleep, which is near and dear to my heart, and I'll talk a little bit about why that is in a couple slides. But some general music guidelines for music that you might think about using for sleep are tracks with slow tempos, sparse note placement, tracks that are repetitive, music that includes live instruments, although it's not to say you couldn't have, I would say starting with like the Super Nintendo era, you'd probably get some music that would be pretty fitting for sleep. It might be harder to find some NES stuff that would fit, but I'm sure it's out there. So I looked at my playlist for game music for sleep and noticed that I had a lot of town themes and temples from RPGs, a lot of songs that play when you get defeated, and songs that play in cold places. So, I am going to make this a little interactive for you guys, and we're going to basically do kind of a name that tune, and I have some prizes for you guys. So let's start with the first song for sleep, and just raise your hand and see. That is right. Come up for your prize. Rosalina's Observatory version 1 or something of 3 different versions. And you can kind of hear it's kind of composed to be a lullaby. All right, so that was an easy one. All right, I started you guys off easy. Let's see. This one's a little harder, and I did put in here that there was gonna be certain ones that had a prize, but then I just ended up bringing a bunch of stuff, so I'm probably gonna give prizes out for all of them. So let's see if we can get this one. Which one? I guess that could be. Yeah, I think that's probably where it plays. It's called The One Who Is Torn Apart. You guys are good at this. I can't even play the music. I thought this one would be tough. Go ahead and come up. So this one kind of, this is from the PlayStation, obviously, from Xenogears. Korean pop CD, Critical Hit, Korean MMO. I'm saving these for later. So this one employs slow tempo. It has sparse notes, and it's pretty repetitive. So it kind of hits all of those kind of features that I identified for a song that would be good for sleep. So I like to use this one for that purpose. All right, how about a third one here? This one should be a little easier, I think. Back? Yeah, do you know where it plays? Do you know the composer? Yeah. All right. Well, that's good. I think it's the fact that you got Secret of Man. I think that's good. This is this one kind of employs again a slow tempo and just kind of feels like something you would sleep to. It plays in the ruins at the game. One of my favorites. Korean pop CD, Critical Hit, which is a game music cover band, or Korean MMO range album. I'm saving those ones for later.
That's fair. Which one was which?
Game music cover band, Korean pop band, Korean MMO. All right, so I said that I have a kind of a vested interest in the game music for sleep scene. So I wanted to create, kind of like Square Enix, who stole my idea. I should get a special thanks or something. I was thinking about lifestyle and what could I do with our label to kind of promote a game music lifestyle. And what we did is we have Metal Gear Solid composer Norihiko Hibino, the Snake Eater guy. And he's a jazz saxophonist. And he plays with a piano player in Japan, and they do some jazz improv stuff, and they're this duo called Gentle Love. So he's been doing all this healing music with this Gentle Love group, and I thought it would be fun to bridge the gap between his kind of mission to, quote, heal people with music and his ties to video games. So we produce an arrangement album series that is live jazz improv to sleep and relax to. So that's out there. And this is the most recent one we launched in October, and I want to see if anyone can identify this song. Obviously, this one is an arrangement album. Was that someone's ringtone? That's a really good one. I like that. That's the is that Bahamut from Final Fantasy? Oh, Medio. Yeah. Okay. My tone is a virus from Final Fantasy IV. Does anyone recognize this song? Once I say it, you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that's pretty obvious." Nobody? What do you guys think of the Mega Man 2 boss theme? So yeah, this album, this is the 6th album in the series, so we wanted to keep it fresh. So the concept behind this album is battle themes turned into lullabies. So we have like Mega Man 2's battle theme. We got, what the hell else is on there? There's like Final Fantasy IV, Chrono Cross, Dark Souls, Ornstein and Smooth is on there. Turned into a lullaby. Okay, and then I want to give a shout out to Materia Collective's Sleep Mode, which just came out, I believe, last month, and it's a lullaby album as well. So there's music out there to sleep to. And I had mentioned that I had done some writing and tried to spread the word about game music as a lifestyle there. And what prompted the creation of this album series was actually a top 10 article that I had written called the Top 10 Game Music Tracks to Sleep To. And it got, it looks like on there like 150 comments of people, the top 10 thing. You put a top 10 out there and you get comments saying, oh, well, you left off this one, or, this list is terrible, you didn't include my favorite one, this. So when I actually went to create the album series, I kind of scoured what the comments were on this thing and included some tracks that I wouldn't have normally included, but got ideas from users. So I always invite anyone to email me music that they think would be good to sleep to, and I add it to a list that I have, so when I produce a new volume, I can refer back to it. But yeah, you can get more ideas from the comments of this article. So, do you guys have any favorites? Are you guys listening to any game music to sleep to?
I've been really into the Terraria soundtrack.
That's a really good one, actually, yeah.
So, actually, I was going to say, I didn't realize, as a compliment, I didn't realize that you produced those albums. I actually have them on my Spotify playlist already.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I had them in my big collection of music, but it was a little bit too calm for work.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
switched to a different playlist for at night and not driving.
Yeah, it's not for driving, even though I try to do it to like take the edge off of a stressful drive. My son, who's 5 years old, will say, well, why are we listening to the sleep music? Why are we listening to sleep music? So he's kind of he's already been taught at an early age that
Perhaps I'm just weird, but I would say that on the real tournament, music is a lot better for sleeping.
So I think there's I wish I remembered the name of the song. That was the soundtrack that had Alex Brandon and I'm trying to remember the guy's name. There was a track that was like this really spacey song that I actually did use for sleep from that. And it was kind of like a dancey space song. Yeah, so I know what you're saying. It's not that weird. You and I are on the same wavelength for sure.
I like listening to, at least for calming down and going to sleep, the build music tracks from the first Sims game, just the piano solos.
I didn't play that one, but I can imagine being familiar with some Sims music that there's probably a lot of stuff from that series that's really ripe for sleep and relaxation. There's some crossover between the two that we'll talk about. What about in the back there? What are you guys listening to for sleep?
The Skyrim night ambience soundtrack.
That's a really good one. There's actually a ton of music from the Elder Scrolls series that's really great for sleeping. Usually, obviously, the exploration songs. And the first 2 volumes of that Prescription for Sleep series, the first one has Ariel's Ascension from Oblivion, and the second one has Streets of Whiterun from Skyrim. So definitely I've gone through and listened to a lot of the Elder Scrolls music and identified music that's really good for sleep. Was there another hand back there?
Breath of the Wild's like Hallmark piano pieces.
Yeah, they're kind of like the exploration themes, like the piano, and yeah, definitely. I was playing through it, it's such a long game, and playing through it late on the airplane and stuff, and just kind of dozing off, listening to some of this stuff. So I think that's a pretty good indicator that it's good for sleep. So game music for relaxation, I feel like there's a lot of crossover. You might be a little less restricting than sleep. You might be able to have louder and harsher sounds. So like for that Prescription for Sleep series, it's a saxophone. So some of the tracks aren't very good for sleeping, quite admittedly, because it's a harsh saxophone sound, but that might be good for relaxing. And obviously there's lots of crossover between sleep and relaxation. So I have the same kind of keep an ear out for list here. Now let's listen to some songs. I know there's people in here who play this game. Probably still. It is. Battaglia Downs. But come on down. You got the game. So that's Battaglia Downs from Final Fantasy XI.
It's kind of silly. I actually played like a very brief bit, didn't get very far in it before I stopped playing. And it was one of those things where
I'm saving
I
these ones
listened
for later,
to the
so if you
entire
wanna pick one of those
soundtrack.
three.
One of these two?
3.
Oh, one of
It's
these
a Korean pop album, a kind of game music cover album, an MMO arrange album.
two. Nice.
It's really
Try
good.
this one out.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Let's go to the next one. All right, back there in the black. Perfect, come on down. This is such a good soundtrack for sleep. In fact, I really, really, really want to produce an entire volume of Near Lullaby's album. It's so good. And her voice, I mean, I can't imagine her kids get the best lullabies, I'm sure. All right. It is. It's Spagonia Night, yeah. Come on down. I love this song, it's so good. This soundtrack is just fantastic. The game, you could argue, wasn't so good. This is Sonic Unleashed. Very good soundtrack. Lots of really cool, well-produced music on this album. The Planetary Pieces, Sonic World Adventure original soundtrack. Yeah, it's confusing because it's Sonic Unleashed in the US, but it has all this. Yeah. Oh man, you're opening Pandora's box there. For me, it's probably Sonic 2. That's my favorite Sonic game. Yeah. It would be cool to produce a Sonic Lullabies album, I think. It'd be really cool. Someday. You gotta get Capcom involved. Or Sega, I guess, in that case. I get those two mixed up all the time. So here's some of my recommendations. The one on the left here is The Altered Beasts, which is comprised of the two guitarists from the One-Ups. They do a really great guitar arrangement album. Great for relaxation. Some of the arrangements are pretty upbeat, so it's not necessarily for sleep. And this one on the right is one of my favorite pieces of music ever to exist. Final Fantasy IV's Celtic Moon, which is a Celtic arrange album. So good. All right, what do you guys listen to relax to? Kind of the same stuff maybe that you were listening to for sleep?
The SimCity 3000 soundtrack is super chill. It's actually good for sleep too, but
Who did that? Do you know? Is it Mothersbaugh?
now I forgot.
Hmm.
It's been a couple of years.
Oh, there you go. That franchise is just ripe for the taking.
Yeah, even the bad reboot was good.
Yeah.
Basically anything on the Journey soundtrack.
Journey is fantastic. Yeah, that's totally chill. In the pink up here in the front.
A lot of the town themes, especially from Pokemon and Final Fantasy V, have some really good ones.
I really like the fact that a lot of these games have formulaic soundtracks that you can just dig in and grab the town themes. So whether it's Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or whatever it is, any RPG, typically there's going to be battle themes that you can use for the gym, there's going to be town themes that you can use for sleep, and so on. In the back.
It's long, but the whole end credits from Twilight Princess for like the 13-minute long entire ending. Yeah.
I don't know. I seem to recall it being a little emotional.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd be relaxing. I would be like crying. Yeah. All right. Well, let's go on to game music for exercise. So some general guidelines is you want some faster tempo stuff. You kind of want energetic driving beats. You can do metal soundtracks or electronic instruments. Things to look out for would be, again, battle themes. Fighting games and shmups typically have a lot of music that would work. And generally violent things work really well for this. So let's see what we think here. I'll be surprised if someone knows this. It's a really fantastic soundtrack, but yeah, in the back. Yes, come on down. I love this. This soundtrack is so good. For anyone who's not, I actually, there's a few games that I've gone back and played solely because I listened to the soundtrack so much and loved it. And I'm like, okay, what's the deal? Why is this soundtrack so good? Nier was one of those games that I didn't play. I just listened to the soundtrack over and over again. Finally went and played it. And so yeah, come on down if you want a prize. This song is like 10 minutes long, so. Okay, well, at the end, if there's some leftover stuff, maybe you can grab another one. So there you go, Argon Refinery. It's like a weird block breaker game where you can use gravity to pull the ball towards you or push it away from you, and there's like bosses that you fight in this. It's block breaker, and it's not very good, but the soundtrack is wonderful. I think the franchise will be obvious here, but I want you to tell me what title. What franchise is it? It is Castlevania. Do we know which franchise, which specific title? It's not Symphony of the Night. It's a handheld, I'll say that much. Close. No. It's Dawn of Sorrow, which I would argue has the best, one of the best Castlevania soundtracks here. There's so many cool songs on that soundtrack. So anything Castlevania, you typically, there's a lot of kind of rockin' music that has crossover between exercising or Halloween, which we'll get into later. All right, you can pick out another one if you'd like. You want another prize?
All I do is listen to gaming radio or all the
Oh, which one do you
soundtracks I
want?
have, so I'll do this one.
Cool.
Oh my god, I love Jacob.
Yeah, so a lot of the music in this game is perfect for this purpose. There's a lot of energetic, hard. So I guess this is an example of NES style for exercise. Does anyone have any, we were talking about maybe NES stuff isn't the best for sleeping. Did anyone have any stuff that they would think that comes to mind that was an NES track that they used to sleep or relax?
Some of the Final Fantasy II songs and Final Fantasy III songs were really, really good for sleeping, depending on which ones you pick.
That's true.
Some of the town themes especially.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like, the Elia Maiden of Water track from Final Fantasy III maybe, the town themes.
Game Overtune from Zelda 1, and I guess also Link's Awakening.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty chill.
The
Tune one for the Game Boy Advance for Minish Cap is
Yeah.
very, very much like a lullaby.
the game Overtune from Zelda 1 is, it's so like kind of weird. It's like upbeat, It's like a weird song.
Go to sleep in a good mood, though.
Yeah, I guess so. In the back?
The Final Fantasy Prelude theme in like the beginning of every module.
Right. Very true. On the left?
It's a little cheating, but Final Fantasy Prey covers.
Oh, yeah. There's a track on that album. So you're pretty familiar with that album. There's a track that I can't pronounce, but it's the Final Fantasy VI town theme. And it's literally a lullaby. And it's Noah, Cora, something or other. But it's actually kind of what inspired that selection. It's on one of our Prescription for Sleep albums because I love that arrangement so much. It's just so good. Anyway, back to the exercise stuff. So I didn't do a name that tune on this one. This one's just kind of like an unusual pick to demonstrate that it might not all have to be really kind of hardcore, energetic music. So let's see what you think of this one. It's kind of like a little more mellow, right? But I think it works pretty well, probably because the drums. But it's kind of maybe like a little breath of fresh air in your playlist. You're listening to a bunch of heavy, hardcore metal stuff or electronic stuff, and you need a little cool down in your workout. A lot of the shmup stuff that's kind of more smooth or cool, I kind of work into an exercise playlist. Some of the stuff from like Raystorm are some of my favorites where people are like, well, I put that on the list in that in this article, this Destructoid article that I wrote, and people are like, that's not good for the gym, but I thought it worked. Back there.
Just a comment, it's interesting, that is closer to what all the exercise games typically have as a soundtrack, as opposed to like the driving rock and bass kind of thing.
So you're thinking like, when you say exercise games, are you saying like DDR or?
Well, no, not DDR, I'm talking about like the Wii fitness games, have soundtracks that sound exactly like that.
Huh. Okay, I didn't.
The industry must have picked up on it.
Yeah, I think that, again, I think maybe it's trying to make it fun as well as, driving, maybe perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's the regular rhythm and the sort of like forward movement in the song that for me really gets it with exercise music, because it doesn't necessarily have to be like super intense, like F-15 battle themes or something, like something like the Ragnarok Online tune. I find that just because it feels like it's always like moving forward, it's like very like out on the adventure kind of running sort of thing that really, for me personally, works as exercise.
Well, and I think the thing is you can't work out at maximum capacity forever. You gotta, you maybe work out really hard for one song, and then you maybe got a little more mellow one that you can cool down with, and then you got another, heavy song that you might listen to and really push hard, and then, you're taking a break. But I think it'd be fun to do a lifestyle album for this. And it would be hard to pick between electronic or rock, so maybe you'd have to do like both. It'd be cool to, I've been thinking like it'd be cool to have like Stemmage do the rock side and Blind do the electronic side or something like that. I've been thinking about that. And so I alluded to that I had written an article about top 10 game music tracks for the gym. This is actually the last article I wrote before I left the site and started working on Scarlet Moon stuff. Here's some recommendations. So I have some Metroid Metal in there. And Anarchy Reigns or the Mad World soundtrack are both really good. It kind of fits in with the generally violent things that I mentioned in an earlier slide. So what are you guys listening to from game music to take to the gym? Dynasty Warriors is so metal and perfect. I really wish, on the topic of Dynasty Warriors, I mean, it's kind of, I didn't play a lot of the series, but I've appreciated the music. What was the Nintendo one called? Hyrule Warriors? Man, I wish...
There's Fire Emblem Warriors and Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. Oh, man, Hyrule Warriors soundtrack is so good, and there's so much good music for exercising. So I actually have, because there's no soundtrack album, I have a game rip, and I pulled some of the music from that for an exercise playlist. But I really wish they'd put out a soundtrack album for that. In the front here, in the jacket. Yes, and thank goodness Brave Wave was able to bring that out and publish that for everybody to buy. I don't know if anybody knew the Ninja Gaiden soundtracks 1, 2, and 3 from the NES. They remastered the soundtrack and put it out, so digital, vinyl, and it's actually on sale here. And for a long time, that was on my wish list. There was some soundtrack albums they put out in the 90s that cost $150 to get these days because they're so rare. The fact that Brave Waves put them out, now you can get them for like $10. So yeah, all that music's really fantastic. And the armbands there on the middle there. Yeah, I know a lot of the Toho stuff. It's mostly electronic, right, and rock. Yeah, so I think all that stuff is really applicable. On the left there in the back. Yeah, that one's intense, and that's kind of an unusual pick too, because you don't usually think of something orchestral. But if I have a lot of Hitoshi Sakimoto stuff on my my gym playlist from Valkyria Chronicles and Breath of Fire 5 and Gradius 5 stuff that he's done too. So there's some kind of unusual things that you might not come to mind immediately that you can use here on the front. So anything from a fighting game or like I said, a shmup typically is pretty good. Yeah, I usually raid Tekken soundtracks to pull a bunch of gym tracks. They do a pretty good job, and Tekken Tag Tournament I think has a fantastic soundtrack, so I'm always going and pulling those songs. In the front here? It doesn't matter. We got time for everybody.
Sonic stuff from way back all the way to now. So much of it is really good. Sonic Forces is a lot of like electronic stuff. Sonic CD, Sonic Mania. Sonic Rush is really good. That's Hideki Naganuma's stuff from that. It's all like,
Which is like a racing game, isn't it, of some sort?
Sonic Rush is just like, it's the DS like platformer Sonic game. But like, it's from the composer who did Jet Set Radio, so it's really like sort of dancey, and it works awesome for running, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, you gotta go fast.
I enjoy a overshort remix of Megalo Strike Attack from Chloe Fox.
That song is fantastic in itself, and it comes up a lot on my playlist for exercising, and it's really driving. Even the original, and there's tons of remixes because it's such a popular track. So for sure, Megalovania is a good pick.
Oh, it's Megalo Strike Back.
Oh, what's that one?
Basically the sequel to Megalovania that came out.
Oh,
And I think it was Halloween.
I see. I guess I'll have to go look that up. Very cool. All right. See, I learned. That's why I asked, because you guys, have some really good suggestions in the behind here. Yeah.
For a long run, I will typically do Shadow of the Colossus theme, Scars of Time from Chrono Cross, or the City of Rome from the Assassin's Creed soundtrack. Both of those, all three of those have varying tempos, so you can change the pace of your run based on the music and kind of get that variance in the exercise.
What was the second one you said?
Chrono Cross, Scars of Time.
Yeah. So that's an interesting pick because again, it's not this hugely driving. It's kind of more kind of inspirational almost, right? And
That's why it's super
yeah.
because it's that good
Feel good.
where you can slow down your
Mhm.
when the music tempo is slow and kind of catch your breath and then power through when the tempo picks up, and so you get that variance and that drive from the music.
Right. Perfect. On the left here.
Recently I tried using some openings and Persona battle music.
Yes, Persona music. There's a lot of stuff that I have on my playlist from Persona 2 also. In the far back? Did you?
So, going back to the original battle radio system,
Oh man, I forgot all about that game. Yeah, there was a soundtrack that was put out, then there was like a dance album also, a remix album. So I bet you could probably pull stuff from both of those. On the middle here? Yeah.
Bravely Default, like especially the final boss themes.
Yes. I feel like Bravely Default 2 in particular has a lot of like really kind of heavier rock stuff that really fits. And then,
Run to Mega Man level music, but when it's time to lit, Final Fantasy boss music.
sounds good to me. Oh yeah, Streets of Rage is perfect. Dance music. All right. So how about game music for Christmas? We just passed this holiday, but there's a lot of interest, I think, in game music fans to listen to some game music-oriented stuff. And so things you're going to look for are obviously games that have arrangements of Christmas songs in them. Things with wind effects can work. Things with bells and small chamber groups might not come to mind immediately, but can also be used. So obviously keep an eye out for Christmas arrangements, ice and snow themes, small chamber groups. I just actually went through and did a search of my library and for snow, ice, cold, winter, and just added it all to a playlist. And for the most part, all of it kind of works. So let's listen to some tunes here. So you get those jingle bells in the background. No takers, huh? It's Hitoshi Sakimoto. So this is a fantastic soundtrack, by the way, really, really good, and a lot of good tracks for various lifestyle, I think. But there's a winter, a spring, a summer, and a fall variation of this this map theme. Let's see here. In the back. White snow, very good. Wow, impressed. I mean, I think anybody could say, oh, it sounds like Mario, but they wouldn't be able to pick out which one it was, so very good. You want to come grab a prize? And this is I think a challenging one. Nobody? It feels like Christmas. Yeah. Some bells, some nice jingle rock, maybe some guitar here. So it's actually from what was that Parasite Eve game? The third birthday. Come again to Christmas.
Don't get too excited.
All right.
Soundtrack's the best part.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes place in like a wintry, it must take place during Christmas time, because there's a bunch of Christmassy, there's like a weird version of Joy to the World that I think Suzuki sings himself. I can't remember much of the soundtrack outside of like those two songs, so I can't. Do you recall, Steven? Do you remember? Is it a good soundtrack even?
Yeah, it's pretty solid. It's like kind of proto Final Fantasy 13 too, because it's all the same composer. So
Yeah. All right. So again, some shameless self-promotion here. We love shameless self-promotion. We love Christmas music at the label, and so we got together and produced some arrangement albums. So this one on the left has Hiroki Kikuta doing some Christmas music. It has Robin Miller, who did Mist, doing like a Mist Christmas song. And then the volume 2 that we released this last year, who's all on there? Mega Ran's on there, and Vince DiCola's on there, and Norihiko Hibino, who I mentioned earlier, does a song. So who's excited that Vince DiCola's here at MAGFest? Yeah. By show of hands, who actually, when I say Vince DiCola, knows who that is? So it's a small handful. He's the guy who did Transformers the movie and Rocky IV. So he has a track on there. He sounds very DiCola-esque, I think. So our plan is to do an annual Christmas thing. Traditionally, Christmas music is not very lucrative, but I think people who really love it want to do it because it's just so fun and festive, right? So there was a top 10 list game music tracks for Christmas that you can go check out if you want to see more suggestions. And Square Enix actually has a Christmas or Xmas Collection series that has 3 different albums in it. There's Xmas Collections 2, and Xmas Collections Bravely Default. So for the Bravely Default fans in the room, there's a whole album of Christmas songs for whatever reason. I don't know why it was made, but we're happy that it was, and you can go check that out. This Xmas Collections 2 has Yuzo Koshiro, Streets of Rage, does a orchestral version of Chrono and Marl from Chrono Trigger, and it's just so good. Oh man, it's just a fantastic song. I should have put it on here, just so we could listen to it. What are your guys' favorite stuff for Christmas? What are you guys listening to? Any game music stuff? People just hate Christmas music. It's kind of polarizing. In the back, in the red? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, there's a ton of really great stuff from Undertale, for sure. Anything else?
The item sets in the soundtrack. A little repetitive in the game, but it's great as Christmas music and just general chill music.
That's right. So finding, I think a lot of it takes place in the snow and ice and that kind of stuff. So again, finding ice games and areas of themes from games. On this top 10 list that I had written for Destructoid, one of the songs on there was there was Lord of Vermilion, the soundtrack. There was like this mountain theme that had like wind sound effects, and it was really like not a very festive or happy song. It kind of has metal and it's kind of driving, but it was kind of cool. It's kind of nice to break up the monotony, especially when you listen to like standard Christmas standards. It's nice to break up the monotony with something kind of unusual here and there to just break it up when you're listening to the stuff for, a whole month. All right, how about Halloween? So we're not talking about, the sound effect scare track, creaking doors and screams. Maybe you still want to listen to some music for Halloween. That's right. I have that on the next slide. Slow tempos, dark atmospheres, anything with harpsichord and organ will typically kind of be a good fit. Horror games with melodic tunes, Castlevania. And there's actually an interesting debate. There was an article on OSV from a writer who didn't play a lot of the early Castlevania games, but he really loved the soundtrack to Lords of Shadow. And, there was debate among the staff that, oh man, Castlevania is supposed to be goth rock, and this is just an orchestral soundtrack, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, why would you think a vampire game needs metal music? So it's like, I said, I guess you're kind of right. Maybe just the fact that we grew up with it, we just associate that sound with that series. Huh. All right, remind me. Yeah, bug me after MAGFest. There's no sleeping at MAGFest. So yeah, the question is does Castlevania music, why is it rock? I don't know, but we love it and we'll listen to it. We'll take it. Dungeons and slower battle themes are pretty good. So let's see if anyone could get this one. No, but you spoiled my next one. Really? No takers on it, huh? You got your hand half up there, and then the one behind you, someone's got a half hand. Is that? No. No. All right. You gonna take a venture guess? No. So check it out. Yeah, some deep cuts here. That's a good. I figured Zelda. I was like, people are gonna get Zelda. It's kind of an obscure, track from the. That was a really good soundtrack, by the way, and we were very lucky that Nintendo actually published a soundtrack album for it. Yeah. All right.
Castlevania.
This is what you were thinking, right? Yeah. Well, come on down for a prize. Why not? This is a really good one. This is Path of the Departed from Symphony of the Night. That whole soundtrack, I think, is pretty good for finding Halloween tunes. Really a must-have album in any game music fan's collection, I think. Back. It is. I listened to this for hours and hours and hours while I got killed by Flame Lurker over and over again. And I had to end up going into some corner of the room behind a lava pit and just shooting him with the 300 arrows that I bought. Because he was impossible. Did anyone actually beat Flame Lurker? Yeah, hands? I think maybe there's you have to do the somersault, the what is that? What do they call that? What do they call the dodge move in that game? The dodge move in Dark Souls. It's the roll, which I never mastered, was never very good at, so I could not beat him. Anyway, if you want to come up to the front for a prize. It's a really good soundtrack too. This I feel like this is probably better than a lot of the Dark Souls soundtracks, I think.
The whole soundtrack feels like a horror movie music.
So I think you got one earlier, so you can pick another one that you like. It's a good one. Mm-hmm. All right, here's some recommendations. We got, on the left is the One Ups album, Songs for the Recently Deceased, which again is a collection of songs that aren't even necessarily like scary games or anything, but it's kind of weird how once you start listening to this stuff, you associate it with that. So now if I hear these songs, I think, oh yeah, like Halloween. And even though it's, I'm trying to think of exactly what's on this album, but there's just a bunch of really cool stuff. And then on the right here, is there any fans of Viking guitar in the room? They're very good metal. They have an album series called Dance Macabre that they have the 6th one they just released this Halloween, and it's film and game music arranged in metal style. So I really recommend checking out that series for your Halloween game music needs. You guys have any recommendations for, oh wow, I kind of figured nobody would really be listening to game music for Halloween. I thought I was cutting edge here. Let's start in the front.
Doom 1 and 2, the old ones, pretty much everything.
Yeah, those are good ones. In the front? Yeah.
Spectre of Torment, the Shovel Knight Spectre of Torment, really obvious, but, it's great. I mean, some of the songs from Shovel Knight are even redone in a more Halloween-esque sound, because it's just kind of a sad story. So it fits the Halloween
Well,
perspective.
the tower theme in particular, is, that just jumps out immediately. It's, oh yeah, that's perfect for Halloween.
The ghost levels in Super Mario World are chilling.
Oh yeah, and there's some arrangements that are really killer of that song too. That would be really well. In the back here.
I forget, I don't know the name of the song, but it's the first time he was in the newest Final Fantasy game.
What was the, it's 50, okay, I know what you're talking about. It's the, yeah, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's definitely good at building tension and making you kind of spooked for sure. On the left here, in the front?
Got two. One is more for like creepy vibe, and that's, I can't remember what it's called, but it's from Eternal Darkness, and it's the track that plays when you're the colonial era. It's got like harpsichord, and it's just really good stuff. And then the other one, for like more lighthearted thing, that's so Halloween, is the Smash Brothers Brawl remix of Luigi's Mansion.
All right, those are good ones. I'm gonna have to go check out. Yeah, that's very cool. On the next to him.
So I tried to creep out some friends who are playing hide and seek at night. So it started with, I can't remember if it's in the soundtrack, it's Union Cave or Dark Cave from Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver. But I started out with that, and then after a few plays of that, I tried to Super Ruins Out, which is a creepy remix of the already creepy game song.
Also from Pokemon. Okay, very good. All right, and behind him. Oh yeah.
Just like always unsettling and ambient in a lot of ways.
I need to play that. It's wrapped in plastic on my shelf in my backlog.
Or just the Tristram
Yes, I have that on. That's on my playlist. Yeah.
haunting, but like it's peaceful, but there's something wrong here.
A lot of the other Diablo music doesn't work as well. It's not that musical. It's more ambient in nature. So I think. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. On the left here.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and also some of the darker themes while exploring like dead or abandoned places in the Mass Effect trilogy.
Okay. Any more suggestions in the back over on the left? Yeah, you.
So if you want to go silly, I have two. One is the Psychonaut soundtrack.
Mm.
Particularly the circus theme, but there are other ones that work also. And then the Count Bachelor's theme from Conquer Bad Bread. You like both of them.
These are all really good recommendations and things I haven't heard, so I'm gonna have to check these out afterwards. On the getting towards the back here on the right side.
The Haunted House from Super Mario 64 with the piano that bites you. I was certified grand pianos for like a few years after that. So that entire ghost mansion thing was creepy. It was creepy.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to. It's been a long time. I'm gonna have to check that out again. It's been a while. In the right side still.
Kind of surprised someone's mentioned it, but just generally most of Super Metroid, just because it's very atmospheric and especially like the abandoned ship is just kind of dark and unsettling.
I'm playing through that right now on the SNES Classic with my 5-year-old son, and so now in the car he's always saying, "Play Metroid music, play Metroid music," and I'm like, nobody wants to listen to that, just you and me. So he was obsessed with the ghosts in the ghost ship. He's like, why are the ghosts in there? What's going on? You know, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's definitely a good one, and it's something I just listened to recently. Maybe a couple more, and then we should move on. Just shout them out. Quake. Was Quake electronic in music, or is it? Okay, that's it. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Oh man, I haven't listened to that in ages. That'd be good to go check out again. Any more? Last of Us.
The one song from Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, so you can see there's a lot of stuff you could be putting a playlist together on for Halloween. More stuff than I actually knew. So thank you all for those suggestions. So we're going to wrap up here and just kind of go through some. These are going to be some arrangement tracks actually, but you know, what about game music for a wedding? You know, what about this as the what about this for the wedding march? This was my wedding march. My wedding actually. My wife's wedding march, I guess I'll say. Yeah. And it's funny because this arrangement has a portion in it where the audience starts clapping. So we had to like hurry up and get through. She had to hurry up and get up to the front of the room before that clapping started coming, because that would have been kind of weird. But you know, Waltz for the Moon would be a good one for the reception, and from Final Fantasy VIII, and you know, so maybe there's some stuff you could pull for your special day. What about, you know, like my kids' parties? You know, my son and daughters and stuff. I have a playlist that I put together, and it has a lot of one-ups on it, but this, you know, kind of upbeat and fun and familiar to us. Maybe people who come to the party don't even realize it's game music, which is always kind of could be a good thing. When we talked about this earlier with that Square Enix Cry album, you know, maybe there's some music that you want to listen to when you're down, you know, for whatever reason. Anyone really familiar with Dragon Quest II? No. This is at the beginning of the game, like, there's this kingdom and they get attacked by these demons and the king gets killed, and you know, it's an NES game. So, you know, the king like flashes and then he's, you know, has X's on his eyes, and I was a kid and I'm like, oh god, it's so sad. Now you watch and you're like, wow, okay. But you know, Chrono Trigger's Bottom of the Night comes to mind for this purpose. There's a lot of kind of sad tunes. It's kind of an RPG standard to have, like, you know, the sad, melancholy tracks, so you can make yourself a little playlist to be sad to, you know, why not? So you see that the possibilities are pretty endless. You know, we spend a lot of time sleeping, so that's a big one. We should all probably spend a lot more time at the gym. And it's funny because I always feel like I'm coming here and telling you about game music to go to the gym, and you know, I don't get to the gym very often. You could probably see, but I think you know, having again, if we're all into game music and it's something we're really passionate about, finding ways to have a game music lifestyle, I think, is really important. And you know, maybe it's not listening to the original soundtrack stuff because your friends and family won't really tolerate it, but maybe it's finding arrangement albums that are produced for these reasons. And there's all kinds, a lot of really great jazz and rock, and you know, whether it's Materia Collective putting out something every month or every week, it seems, or you know, a bunch of other avenues that this game music gets released through. Overclocked Remix is a good example, and you could probably find any particular song that you like arranged in 20 different styles on Overclocked Remix, particularly stuff from Final Fantasy and Mega Man and Sonic and stuff. So yeah, thank you all for your time, and again, thanks for waking up so early to make it here today. And if you ever want to get in touch, you know, my email's open. You know, let's talk game music. So thank you all for coming.